Teachers of Reddit, what are some of the weirdest things you've confiscated from a student? A sugar glider. Kept hearing a high-pitched squeak in class. Noticed she had a small animal in her jacket pocket when it decided to poke its head out. A homemade arrow made with a pencil and a modified razor blade. A little orange lizard in a box with a Charizard Pokemon card taped to it. In music class, this kid Oliver pulls out a Matchbox car and starts playing. Teacher takes it, turn around, places it on piano, turns back. He's already gotten the next one out of his pocket and it back to playing. So she took it again. Rinse repeat. Funniest shit ever to an 8-year-old. We laughed so fucking hard. A vitamin B12 vape pen. Didn't know they existed. My father took a cleaver off a student. My dad was doing lunch duty and saw the kid open his jacket and motion his buddies to have a look. Turns out there was going to be a fight after school. My dad knew the kid and asked him to step into the hallway. He got the cleaver off the kid and took him to the office. I'm not sure what his punishment was, but pre-Columbine, so who knows. Not really bizarre, but very memorable. I had to take a water bottle that contained some type of fruity vodka. Had to smell it to be sure. I only knew to check because the student was recognizably drunk. This was an 8th grader. The naked lady booby lighter. Kid was 7th or 8th grade in an alternative school setting. He was always sneaking stuff in his pockets and getting it taken up. We are walking to lunch and my assistant stops suddenly. He comes back with a metal naked woman torso in his hand. You could press one boob and the flame came out of the other. It was fantastic. It was super popular in the office for the few days until mom came to pick it up. She was really glad to get family heirloom back. Not confiscated but actually given as a gift. A bag of her hair. A bag of every strand of hair she's had cut since birth. Not a teacher, but a kid brought a human skull to school. I think the teacher just had a conversation with him about it. I had to confiscate a 7th grader's iPad because he was looking up Ann in girl body pillows. A raccoon penis toothpick. He kept poking other kids with it. Sigh. Student. A teacher confiscated a dildo from a student. This was in 7th grade. In grade school I had two really close friends named Juan and Nick. Here is a picture of us that I love with me in the front, then Juan, and then Nick. The three of us were really close and bonded of our shared nerdy interests of reading, Star Wars, and The Simpsons. We also really enjoyed drawing. I don't remember how it started exactly, but we ended up making this notebook that we passed back and forth between us. It was a comic about a guy named Tom and his cat. We would each take turns doing a strip of a few panels and then hand it over. Here is a quick drawing I did of Tom on my phone, so you can get an idea of what he looked like. The comic was about the everyday life of Tom, and it was extremely mundane. It was things like Tom tries to decide on a shirt or Tom dropped the cat food on the floor. It was really dumb stuff, but the three of us found it so hilarious because we were weird kids. One day our teacher caught us with the notebook and confiscated it from us. She never said a word about it, but I bet when she looked through that thing she probably thought it was the weirdest fucking thing ever, especially since we were laughing hysterically at it when she took it from us. A bottle of passion fruit lube brought in by a 4-year-old, making all her friends smell her fruity hand cream. Poor mama must have had a long night and mixed up her eczema cream. A brick decorated with hentai in the locker of a 14-year-old boy. He was very different, that kid. Not a confiscation, but when my 4 5th-year-olds were getting changed for PE, a little girl opened her bag, and out fell a bunch of very sexy lingerie. 10 minutes later at the window I have a very red mum with the correct kit in hand saying she mixed up the dry cleaning with the daughter's PE kit. I pretended I hadn't seen. Bonus edit. When I asked him why he brought it in, he said for the skulls of my enemies. He didn't have friends, but not because he was odd. Even the odd kids hated his guts, but because he was horrible and obnoxious to everyone. Worked on his social skills with him for a long time, and allowed him to run a manga club in my classroom Friday lunch times. Whilst I was in there, he made friends in the end, and had a much nicer life since that club. He's a happy 18-year-old now with a girlfriend and kid. Having a kid at 16 was the normal in the deprived area, so him having a family, his own place and a job he enjoys is good. He messages me on Facebook every now and then to check in and tell me how his life is. Just because that's not happiness to some of you, please do not shit on his. A white lacy thong from a kindergartner. She was wearing it on her head. When I was in school, my English teacher confiscated 50 Shades of Grey off another pupil during our silent reading time. We would have been in year 7 or 8 at the time. My classmate, who was the dumbest class clown, tried to kick off about it and asked the teacher why it being taken away, and the teacher calmly said, "I'm not letting you read that. It's terribly written. It's as if it's been written by someone on a train." I taught English in South Korea for a year. One time I caught a kid doing the old comic book inside a textbook routine. I was surprised. I didn't know kids did that. After laughing, I confiscated his comic book. Camp counselor here. We have permission to go through bags to confiscate prohibited items like food and electronics and knives. One girl had a Tupperware full of what looked like the oldest peanut butter imaginable smeared all over the Tupperware. I brought it to my coworkers and we all tried to smell it, but it smelled different to all of us. Literally no clue what this shit was. Asked the girl about it one day and she goes, "That's my plant," like it's obvious. Apparently it was some kind of fungus or algae to apply to sunburns. My history teacher brought a live goat to school on multiple occasions and would keep it in the bottom drawer of a filing cabinet. Unrelated to the thread, but 100% true. A live white kitten. They had brought it in to give to their friend. The friend's parents had no idea and did not want a cat. These kids were 12 and 14, so I don't know where their common sense was. The cat was safely retrieved and went home with the principal for his son. Student here. In grade 4, a student in my class brought his cat into class. Small Tupperware container of swamp water. A taxidermied kookaburra. She'd taught herself how to do it from books. It was not done well. It wasn't exactly a confiscation. Some of my students thought it would be a good idea to bring me 2 chickens. 2 live chickens. They knew my daughter had a pet duck that had recently died, so this was their idea to help us get past the grief. I had to keep them in a carrier in my classroom closet in the dark, just so they would be quiet. The chickens, not the kids. By the end of the day I found a kid with a grandmother that had a farm. She took the chickens home. Edit. Here's her duck in better days. I had to confiscate an 11th grader's laptop because she was going to mature themed chat rooms during class. Specifically ones for married men looking to chat with young girls. Yee. Then, after she wasn't allowed to bring her laptop or phone to school anymore, she later got banned from school Chromebooks for doing it again. She was not very bright. My friend had his toasty machine banned just when he started to make a profit. I'm not a teacher, but when I was in HS, one of the teachers saw a kid snorting coke off his desk. Came by, slammed his hand on his desk and said no. Told him to stay after class. Instead of reporting him to the principal and fucking up his life, he threw away what was left in the baggie and basically told the kid he shouldn't do drugs and don't ever bring this shit into my classroom again. Not a teacher, but my cousin is, and she had to take a Ziploc bag full of vodka-soaked gummy bears from some freshman. Nothing like getting drunk at 8 in the morning. Haven't taught in a few years, but for the most part pretty normal stuff. Booze, weed, cigarettes, etc. At one point though caught a student passing a stack of hentai DVDs to another kid, which was just like awkward on so many levels. Basically had his backpack full of various porn DVDs which I figure he was selling to other kids, as he was an 18-year-old senior and could buy that stuff legally. Never got the full story. Sent him to the principal's office and he wound up getting expelled. Student was trying to stick a large suction cup dildo, like the ones you use in the shower, to another student's locker. He actually asked what the problem was. As a principal, I once confiscated 3 voodoo dolls that I instantly recognized as 3 asshole students. They had been picking on this sophomore girl, and she decided to fight back with what she knew. And she wasn't some innocent kid. She was as strange as 3 cans of chicken feed. I always wondered after that day if she ever made one of those things of me. Not a teacher, but someone who helps 5th graders adapting to their new school. We usually are a team of 5 or 6 older pupils who look after one class. Anyways, one day one of these kids wasn't paying attention to us and constantly playing with something under his desk. I then took it, and it was two phones tied together back to back with rubber bands. To this day I don't know what this construction was for.